Time to break down the Cats here at the Voice of College Football, talking Kentucky football and their chances in the SEC Eastern Division. We've got Kevin McGuffey here to talk offense. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mark. It's always great to be on and talk with you and chat with the Mark Rogers Nation, as I like to call them. So maybe you can coin that phrase or something. So
we could do that. We're going with Voice of College Football. We can't have too many taglines, but we'll keep that one in our back pocket just in case.
Hashtag. Yeah, gotcha.
We've got the Last Word on College Football Nation as well. So follow Kevin and the rest of the crew there at Last Word on College Football. They do such a fine job and help support us here at the Voice of College Football. Well, it's not too often that a team loses what could have been a #1 draft choice at quarterback. He was right there at the cutting edge of the first and second round, and it's possible. I'm not saying Devin Leary's a better quarterback, but there could be a better fit. He could play better at the position, especially if he gets more support from the offensive line and the wide receivers.
Oh yeah. The first thing we always like to talk about with the Kentucky offense for this year is the return of Liam Cohen as the offensive coordinator. Of course, he was here in 2021. Levis had such a great year. Wan'Dale Robinson had the best year ever by a Kentucky receiver. And then Cohen went back to the NFL. Things didn't work out so well there. Then Rich Gangarello came in here. Things didn't quite work out so well. And through a nice whatever words you want to use, Cohen is back. And there's a lot of excitement. I mean, there's a lot of excitement about the program anyway, but there's a lot of excitement about what people think the offense can do this year. And I think obviously it starts with Leary. And as you know, I'm sure everyone's aware, former North Carolina State, came from North Carolina State, threw for over 6,800 yards and 62 touchdowns playing there for the Wolfpack. The one, if there is a worry, he has missed parts of 2 seasons due to injury. So going into what you said at the beginning there, the big blue wall, got to keep him upright this year. He can't be running for his life like Will Levis did in a lot of games last year. If that happens again, then it's not going to be as good a season. But like I said, everyone here is really excited to see the combination of Leary with the Liam Cohen offense and with the wide receivers that Kentucky has coming back. See what the I think the expectations are high. We'll leave it at that.
Will Levis missed some time last year. He's a bit more of a runner, certainly, than Leary, so he ran himself into some problems. And again, the offensive line wasn't always there to protect him. Devin Leary, as you mentioned, in injury history. So we don't want to see Devin Leary sidelined for long times. But there could be that second half that somebody needs to jump into a meaningful game or a 2 or 3 game bridge that you need that backup quarterback. And that's pretty much still in play, Kevin, in regards to who's going to be the #2.
Right. You have you got Kaya Sharon, who's from Somerset here in Kentucky. He was started as the #2 quarterback. He played in the South Carolina game last year. I thought he played pretty well. Of course, Kentucky lost that game to South Carolina. Along with him, you have Destin Wade, who's a highly talented player coming out of the Nashville area. He started, got the unfortunate task of his first college football game as a starter, and first football game total was against Iowa in the Music City Bowl that you and I have talked about that we really don't want to talk about. But he did
only set football back 100 years, Kevin. That's okay.
Yeah, that just anyway. Yeah, that game just like I said, the less said about it, better. I hate to keep bringing it up, but that's the only body of work that you have to go on with Wade was that game. So, but he did some really, really good things in the spring. The coaching staff was very, very high on him, and I think either one, Sharon or Wade, and you still have Deuce Hogan, a former Iowa quarterback who is here as well. So I think the team, if hopefully it doesn't come to that, but they feel pretty well or pretty good about if one of them have to play for an extended period of time. So we'll see. I don't think there's a Lynn Bowden out there right now who could slide in from wide receiver to quarterback. I could be wrong, but I don't see a scenario like that happening this year. But like I said, Wade or Sharon are going to be your guys as the backup. So.
For you non-Kentucky fans who are not aware, Lynn Bowden taking the reins in 2019?
Yeah, 2019.
Led the Cats to a bowl game victory, had to move from wide receiver to quarterback. And I can't think of an example of a big program having to rely on a non-quarterback for that long and doing it successfully for that long. Winning season, bowl game. That was I just had fun watching that. I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, now he did play quarterback in high school, so he did have that going for him. But to tie it in, he did have the offensive line, the really, really great offensive line that year. So, and the interesting thing, you go back and watch, it was, Bowden left, Bowden right, Bowden up the middle, throw in Chris Rodriguez. They weren't exactly, an air raid type of offense, but the thing about it was defenses couldn't stop them. And as you said, it was just amazing to watch how that transpired over the course of the year, ending in that epic Belt Bowl win over Virginia Tech that year. So, but back to your point, Sharon and Wade, that's your two backups. Leary obviously is the guy. Keeping him healthy is paramount, I think, to a successful season this year.
Kevin McGuffey, last word on college football, breaking down Kentucky football for us. The Cats coming off a 7-6 campaign, which the new Kentucky standard is that's not good enough. Mark Stoops has done a tremendous job there, and we've got a couple 10-win seasons in the can over the last few years. So Kentucky looking to bounce back a bit. And the offensive line is going to be huge in that. So since you've already mentioned it, Kevin, I see 4 starters back. And according to Phil Steele's magazine, 125 career starts coming back to an offensive line that certainly was underachieving last year.
Yeah, you're right. They have guys coming back who have played. One thing that's interesting, a couple of guys have switched positions. Jagger Burton, who's a local kid here from Lexington, played left guard last season. He's moved to center this year and has just been this coaching staff has just been glowing over his performance. Another player, Eli Cox, he played center last year, and now he's going back to his original right guard position. So you have those two. Then you throw in Kenneth Horsey, who's likely your starting left guard, and then your left tackle coming in from the transfer portal is Marcus Cox from Northern Illinois, who was one of the highest rated, but like Pro Football Focus, one of the highest rated offensive linemen in the Mid-American Conference last year, who only played a few games last year and got hurt and ended up missing the rest of the season. The other tackle position, right tackle, is kind of up for grabs right now. Right now, as we're talking, I think the Cortland Ford, who's a transfer from USC, is probably going to get the nod. I'd say if the season started today, he would be your right tackle. And then behind him is Jeremy Flax, who started, a majority of the games last year. But for right now with Kentucky, it's a good problem to have. Better to have too many guys and then not have enough. And then Kentucky also brought in some other players, Tanner Bowles, who's an Alabama transfer, Ben Chrisman, who's an Ohio State transfer. And, those two guys are also players that they think can step in either at a guard or a tackle position behind them. So, but they're feeling really good, I think, right now about the offensive line. So, like I said, keep our fingers crossed, and we don't have a duplicate of what happened last year.
Kevin McGuffey's here breaking down Kentucky football. Last Word on College Football is the place to be to track Kevin's work and the rest of the crew there at Last Word on College Football that is so good to us. So Check out Kevin's work, and everybody there at Last Word, please give us a like too. Like these videos, share them out on social media. Ray Davis had a 100-yard game against your Kentucky Blue last year that led to kind of an embarrassing upset at a point when we thought Vandy was incapable of beating anyone with a pulse, but they ripped off wins against Kentucky and Florida. That's another story, but Ray Davis with a nice game now has turned to Kentucky Blue. So Kentucky, to a certain extent, despite losing Chris Rodriguez, basically trades in one 1,000-yard back for another.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. Last year, he basically helped Vandy beat Kentucky, break that 26-game losing streak. Arguably, will go down as one of Stoops' worst losses. I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat it. That game against Vandy last year, but now, like I said, Davis, the transfer portal, comes up Interstate 65 from Nashville up to Lexington, and going to be your starter, I think, coming into the fall. Like I said, 1,000-yard rusher last year. They're really excited about what he can do. And then you have Juton McLean, who spelled Rodriguez last year, especially early in the season when Rodriguez missed the first 4 games. He's another guy who can do a lot of good things. Behind him, you've got Ramon Jefferson, who transferred last year from Sam Houston State. Got hurt in the first game of the season last year, tore his ACL, and was out for the year. He's back this year. And then Kentucky, like I said, they've got a wealth of guys back there that they can kind of maybe throw them at you in waves where, in the past you may just have like a Rodriguez running 95% of the snaps, or, a Benny Snell. You can throw Davis out there. You can throw McLean out there. You can throw Jefferson out there. They've got Demi Sumo. I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but anyway, Kangbaye, who
I got to admit it, Kevin, I was prepping for our record. I came across that name and I said, I'm going to leave that one up to Kevin.
And I'm sure I messed that up, but he was did some good things at North Carolina State last year, obviously playing with Leary. And then they have an incoming freshman, Jamarian Wilcox, who the staff thinks can get some playing time immediately too. So they're really, really well set at the running back position. And of course, if people remember in Cohen's offense, pass catching, running backs who can catch the ball out of the backfield is a big part of that offense. And so I think all of these guys can do that. So that's just another plus for the offense this year. And like I said, we haven't gotten to the wide receivers yet, and that's another place where everyone's very excited about, where you got the dynamic duo returning of Dane Key and Barry Brown. Could be, some people think he might be the most important player on the offense, not named Devin Leary. So you throw him in there. He led the team, I believe, in receiving yards. Dane Key led the team in touchdowns. And then you have Tavion Robinson coming back for another year. In 2021, he did great things with Cohen, kind of slipped back a little bit last year, but now reunited with Cohen. And between those three, they're expecting, I'm using this phrase a lot, but, here in Lexington, they're expecting big things from this offense this year. And it may, like I said, Levis was always, tried to throw that deep ball, and Leary, I'm sure would do some of the same, but, that Cohen offense was, you would see a lot of, the 8 to 12 yard passes, 10, 15 yard, take that hit downfield some, but, it's more of that ball control offense, keep the defense off the field and, wear your opponents down. Like I said, you throw in Key, you throw in Brown, throw in Robinson, and they've got some good guys behind them. And like I said, we're excited here in Lexington. Can't wait for the season. The schedule, it's kind of backloaded. I'm sure if you haven't seen, I'm sure you've seen the schedule. I think
might Kentucky, as well build up the excitement first with a bunch of wins.
Right. You think about the way the schedule lays out this year. I think Kentucky has to start 5-0 to have a good to have a chance at a good season. and that would include another win over Florida, which I think they will do. It's funny, the tables have kind of turned in that rivalry where Kentucky lost for so many years and now has won, two out of the last four. Should have been more. And then looking for a third straight win against Florida, which is something hasn't happened since the 1950s, I believe. But like I said, the back half of the schedule is little. You got South Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama. They're waiting in the wings at the end of the season. It's weird, like the Georgia games usually at the end of the year. It's moved up this year into October, and then South Carolina has always been early in the season, and now it's the last conference game this year. So that's a little different. And then of course, then you have the game against Louisville at the end with Jeff Brom there in Louisville. They're very hyped about their team this year. I still don't see them beating Kentucky, but we'll worry about that at Thanksgiving this year. But anyway, like I said, it's going to be. Like I said, I'm predicting 8-4. I think that's like you mentioned earlier. Like we're kind of to the point now where we used to be here in Lexington. If Kentucky won 7 games, it's like throw a party and not quite go out and burn couches, but still, just making it to a bowl game. But now the program has honestly passed that. Like 7 wins and making like a minor bowl game. That's the floor now. The ceiling, should be 8 wins, 9 wins, and of course they want that SEC championship at some point. I don't know that anyone's going to knock off Georgia this year, but stranger things have happened, especially since Kentucky has to go down there. But like I said, I'm just throwing a lot of things out here, but I'm going with 8-4 right now. I haven't done my season predictions yet, but that's probably coming in the next couple weeks. And last word, but right now, if you ask me today, I'll say 8-4. So
might as well get that first SEC championship and lord that over Texas and Oklahoma too. Might as well allow them in and then get it done.
Right, and then whoever else might be. I don't think in the
exactly.
I don't think in the time we're talking anybody else has joined yet, but left one of the other leagues, or like we were talking about off before we started, like waiting for the smoke signal or something, the black smoke or the white smoke to see, if another team has left the Pac-12 or has joined the Big 12 or leaving the ACC to come to the SEC. Supposedly, I mean, it's been. Like I said, I'm sure it's been awesome for you. It's been awesome for your channel because it's been that's all that's pretty much dominated the headlines lately. So, which I'm sure everyone is really interested in. So, I know I have been.
If this gets to an extreme that some people are forecasting, we may just have an SEC Big Ten Super Bowl every year, and that's going to be college football.
Right. Yeah. Somebody, I saw someone said something about like make it like the Premier League in soccer or something. They just have like 2 20-team leagues or 3 20-team leagues or something. Just be done with it. And that's your your power, instead of Power 5, like Power 3, I guess. So I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And then from an SEC standpoint, would they take more teams? Who knows? I mean, I think 16 is plenty if you ask me, but that's
it is plenty, especially when you can't play most of them. We're going to get to a point where you can't play, most of the league each season. The one thing I will say about the SEC expansion and even the prospects of it moving forward is it seems much more logical geographically. Like I can't see the SEC looking at anyone who's not going to make sense geographically. And I know we're way past that in college football, but it still kind of means something to me. If the additions are some semblance of Florida State, Clemson, Miami, Virginia Tech, they're all going to be within that footprint. Shoot, if Kentucky's playing a game with Virginia Tech, I don't know how close those are, but it's certainly a regional matchup.
Oh yeah, that I would be. I wouldn't be mad at that one. It's probably Blacksburg's maybe 6-7 hour drive from Lexington. Just guessing on that one, but yeah, I mean, and I've heard people, some of the local media around here have thrown, North Carolina's name in there. Obviously, that would mean more, I think, from a basketball standpoint. You think about Kentucky and North Carolina, along with Kansas, the winningest programs in college basketball. But of course, North Carolina had some pretty good football teams, with Mac Brown lately. So that was another one. One person I saw wanted, their suggestion was Florida State and North Carolina. Another one was Clemson and Florida State. So, but or even to me, like a Virginia and a Virginia Tech even would make sense because of the the geographical locations. It's not, and that's an area that the SEC hasn't really expanded into. So, but like I said, it's all speculation right now. And we'll just wait it out and see what happens.
Google's telling me, Kevin, a clean 5 hours to Blacksburg from Lexington. That's it.
Okay. I thought it was farther. I thought it was further away than that, but there you go. Who am I to dispute to Google? So.
Kevin McGuffey, last word on college football, breaking down UK for us. We will look at the defense here in the coming days. Kevin, appreciate you stopping by.
Yes, sir, Mark. Thank you very much for having me on, as always. I really appreciate it. And always fun to get on and talk some college football. I mean, we're in August now, so there will be college football at the end of this month. So we can all rejoice.